All righty, everybody. We are going to get started momentarily. Say hi in the chat. And I'll say hi back. All righty. So we've got an interesting one today. Let me mute my phone. We are going live. I'm going to put myself on the spot today. We're going to go live. We are live, rather. And I'm going to design a landing page of sorts for a fictional business. And we're going to utilize AI as much as possible. And I do not have it already finished. In fact, I have very little clue of exactly what I'm going to be doing. All right. So I see some people are here. Marcus, what is up? Ethan James, Paper Cut. Kevin, what is up? Lakeland, Florida. You're a regular. Awesome stuff. It's been a while since I've streamed, but I'm going to bring him, probably do this at least twice a month or so. And so we're actually going to start out first with ChatGPT, and I'll tell you exactly why. You're probably wondering, what does that have to do with web design or aesthetics? And I'll tell you in a second. So more people are filtering in here. Fire Gamer, what is up? Lasani, Christian, how's it going? Barry, all the way, I think. What is up? Gary, my guy, thank you for this live. Yes. Juno, awesome. All right. I have like this, I don't know if you could see it, but now you can't see it, but it's like, I think of something bit me and I have like this protrusion on my forehead. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop rambling. We're 2 minutes in. Let's just get started. I'm hoping to go around an hour. We'll see how it takes us. Cause again, I have no clue what we're going to end up with. Zero. So let me show you what I did do before, like literally 1 minute before the stream began. I went to ChatGPT and I asked it this question right here. Come up with a fictional business that includes demographics, target audience, the value proposition, etc., so that I can practice UI UX skills by designing a landing page. Please provide me with all relevant information. It spit out a lot of stuff. I'm not going to go through all of it, but we will read just the business name, what it does, and then that'll give us a starting point so that I can better demonstrate to you and also put myself on the spot while live how to integrate AI to hopefully produce something that looks good. Before we get to the business part, though, I do want to give a plug to my UI UX course. This has been recently updated with an AI chapter, which is going to really go in depth, more so than just this live stream, about integrating AI as a part of your UI UX web design workflow. And so I actually do a project here utilizing, things like Midjourney, OpenAI. There's a lot of stuff, but outside of that, this UI UX course is over 16 plus hours of video. There's interactive tests. This is a custom platform that I created. So we have interactive modules, not just video. We have 22 practice projects. You can actually join something called Mentor, which allows me to actually look at your work. So it's an add-on subscription service to the course itself, which is a one-time fee. So definitely check that out. Use Stream30 to get 30% off if you haven't yet joined it. I know a lot of you that have. We're close to, I think, like 5,800 members so far. So anyhow, just check that out. Okay, so business name, Greenbyte. I already like the name, Greenbyte. What the heck is that? So it's an online platform for sustainable and refurbished tech devices. So the business description is Greenbyte is a revolution online platform dedicated to curating, refurbishing, and selling pre-loved tech devices. All right, so people have maybe a phone that's a year or two old. They want to upgrade to the latest thing. Maybe they'll sell it to Greenbyte. They'll refurbish it and make sure it's in working order. And then they'll try to make a profit, obviously, by selling something that is used to people who are looking for something that's not brand new and they want to save money. So it gives us the demographics, all this fake stuff right here. It gives us psychographics, environmentally conscious individuals aim to reduce e-waste. It goes on and on. Target audience, college students looking for affordable and high quality tech for their studies, blah, blah, blah. The value proposition is pretty cool because you could always put this stuff into like a feature section, like a 3 or 4 column sort of like features right here. Sustainability, affordability, has your titles already with you. Unique selling points. have all this brand personality. I mean, it just goes on and on. It even describes the logo and a color palette, a mix of cool blues and greens representing technology and eco-friendliness, respectively. So, yeah, this is actually pretty solid. So what I'm going to do first is before I even step into Figma to start designing, I'm going to try to save as much time as possible by heading on over. Let me move this over here to, where is it at? Midjourney, my channel. All right, right here. So I have Midjourney. Midjourney is, in case you're new to this, is just a generative AI service. And so you can enter a prompt and it'll spit out something that's generative. It could be illustration style, could be photorealistic. Most of you know what it is by now. And what I'm going to do is enter a series of prompts to help generate assets that I can use as a part of the design process. And the reason I want to do this first is because it takes some time and we're in a live stream environment. Normally, I'd probably start working within Figma first, but these take time to generate. It takes time to get, variations. It takes time to keep on generating, and maybe it gives me nothing that I want at first. So that's kind of the process. I'm going to start off with that first. So having said that, let me zoom up here so you can see this prompt as much as possible. And I'm going to say, imagine. All right. So that's how you do it. And by the way, this is a part of my Discord exclusive members service. So when you join Midjourney, you actually have the option of, you can create your own channel, your own server, and then you can actually invite the Midjourney bot to a specific channel where you can then, make it locked so nobody else can use it. And then that way you're not in the public room where there's like a million people trying to generate things all at random. So the very first prompt, as I'm thinking on the spot here, is going to be, all right, so refurbished phone. So trying to think, and I think maybe I want to go the illustrative 2D route, kind of like this right here. This is for a different project. I notice when you specify keywords like 2D vector illustration as a part of your prompt, you're going to get 2D vector illustrations essentially, and it works very well. And so we're just going to enter a few different prompts and just keep going here to get some assets that we can use. So what I'm going to type in first is, and you, by the way, you can all go ahead and simply, make suggestions for prompts that I can possibly use. All right. All right. Somebody said how to use Midjourney for free. I think they give you some free credits initially when you create an account, but then you have to pay after those credits are up. So imagine prompt is going to be, I'm just going to make it simple. Refurbished phone, smartphone, and I'm going to put hyphen V, which is a version. This is a flag 5.1. Actually, no. Before I do that, I'm going to refer phone to the illustration vector V 5.1 AR 16.9. Those are the two. These are pretty much the two things that I continually add. So I'm going to put that one first and just see what it comes up with. I'm going to copy this, and you can generate multiple at the same time. So I'm going to paste that in. Colorful smartphone. We'll do something like white background like this. We'll do another one like someone using a smartphone while smiling. 2D illustration vector. I forgot to put the imagine part. Sorry about that. Imagine. Paste that. All right. Oh, okay. So this is the very first prompt. And again, we have some interesting things here that we can use. This one's actually really cool. It looks like a smartphone. It acts like one. It has this nice flat kind of isometric appearance. And by the way, isometric is also a flag that you can add in Midjourney. And I think maybe we'll do that as well. So pretty cool options right here that we have, although, nothing too exciting. Look at these people. This is already a little strange. It's like those soy boy guys, they're always like smiling or whatever. All right. which I guess is a great thing. I wish I could be like that all the time. Look at this. It has a heart in the middle. He's like looking at you. Yeah, like this one, I would probably avoid. By the way, can I zoom up? Let me, I'm going to get out something really quickly. Let's do recording. Okay. And then we're going to go to zoom it. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So like this one, I would probably avoid it. It's just, it's dated, like this type of design. This is a little bit more interesting. It's obviously a little bit more illustrative. This right here is very strange, but if depending on your branding, you could go with the kind of quirky, sort of appearance, and it could possibly work. This one right here, like I said, funny face person. Yep, that, again, just getting ideas here. So for these first three, they're actually pretty solid. I'm going to put a few more. So imagine recycling smartphone. We'll do isometric 2D illustration vector v5.1 and AR16 9. All right, imagine friends using smartphones while smiling. Again, 2D illustration vector v5.1. So the whole point here is just to get a bunch of images for a source of inspiration, which can really help direct potentially the flow of your UI design, especially with the hero section, which is what we're going to be working on. I like this look. There's something very interesting happening here with the isometric up here. I can already tell it's very blurry, but we're going to wait for that to keep going. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of the comments here. Yep, there's sites that can help you with prompts. What's the advantage of learning this when Midjourney is not free? Well, not everything that you use in life has to be free. I use I use Adobe. I have access to the Adobe Cloud subscription because it's worth paying for all the software because I use it a lot. So not everything has to be free. Now, of course, if you're limited in funds, you can have free. Oh, these are awesome, by the way. Like it really speaks to the eco thing. So like, especially, I don't know what that is up there. Like I wouldn't use that. It's kind of crazy. We have recycled things all over the place. This one's really cool. I like this one a lot. So it has a good amount of potential. It's not really flat 2D vector illustration, so we might be tied to using this background unless we do some Photoshop work to change the background color. But overall, I think that one's really solid. I like the vector look of this one though, because we can easily change colors when we vectorize it, which by the way, we're going to vectorize this. So that looks real nice. I like that. Let's go ahead and do some variations on, we'll do number 1. So we're going to not upscale. Sorry. Oh, well, no big deal. Variations for number 1. Now, where's the other one where people are using? All right. So I'm just kind of looking at how the background is created. So like, for instance, this one up here wouldn't probably lend itself too well just because there's a ton happening in the background. And I'm looking for a flat, solid background so that I can easily integrate it into a web design context. There's still some these other 3 are a lot better and they're a lot more solid and they're more usable in the context of web design. We could definitely use this as something even in a hero section or a supplementary section like that lists out features or something like that. All of these are actually really solid. I can't believe that it is this good, by the way, this generative AI, because somebody to create this from scratch, it would take 1 million years and you would have to pay a bunch of money. So I'm going to use one of these for sure. So I'm not going to do anything with it yet, but I'm going to use some of them. So here's the variations that are already ready to rock. It's kind of strange. It has like this thing on top that's being recycled. It's not the most ideal image. Let's do one more and then we're going to shift focus. So I'm going to say, imagine Phone with recycle symbol, isometric, vector. All right. 2D illustration, flat, and then we'll do V5.1 AR16.9. There's a way to add some of these flags, by the way. Who is that? Oh, that's Jip. What is up? So yeah, I think we'll be good with that. All right. I mean, that's one of the things, of course, it's going to displace some people. But that's progress, just like the horse and buggy manufacturers, they kind of screwed when cars came around. In an ideal world, maybe this wouldn't have happened, but guess what? It is here and there's nothing we can do about it. So those who utilize it are going to have a step in the right direction, so to speak. All right. So let's check these out real quickly. That's, yeah, it's interesting. Not exactly flat with the shadows. I don't know why it insists on putting crap all over the place, but yeah, it's okay. I think I might just probably end up using one of these. I just wish this symbolism was a little bit better. Then we have like just green stuff coming out of here, the phone. All right. We could potentially use one of these people as a part of a hero section. Just trying to think. Yeah, there's a lot of routes we could take. All right, you know what? I think we're going to go this way because, we see some other tech gadgets like this looks like an iPod type thing. I would probably, if this was a real project, really focus on cleaning up the image, but we just don't have time. So we're going to assume this is the ideal image. I'm going to show you how to integrate this into a web design. So what I'm going to do is we're going to, I'm just going to screenshot this, and then I'm going to go ahead and open Adobe Illustrator. Now, you don't have to use Adobe Illustrator if you don't have access to this step, but basically you want to vectorize the result of this. So if I go to new file, go to create, and again, there's a lot of programs that will vectorize bitmap graphics or raster graphics for you. Some of them are web-based, although the web-based solution typically aren't as good as something like Photoshop or a dedicated app. But this will do probably a pretty good job of doing it. So here it is pasted in. This is a pixel rastered image, meaning if I scale this thing way up, you're going to see it's blurry. You'll see pixelation. It doesn't look good. Now, for an illustration on a website, you want to use SVG or make it vector. And the reason you want to do that is because it's going to be a lot smaller in file size because it's literally just code. Like you can open up in a text document or a code editor like Visual Studio Code. And it's also can scale it up to infinity and it's never going to be pixelated. All right. Because it uses math to create the images essentially. So the way we vectorize it is I come up here with it selected and we could choose image trace. So if I just click on the image trace button and let it work, it looks like this. Not exactly what we want, right? We want to be pretty close to this. So there's a little drop down if I zoom up, and this drop down allows me to specify like, maybe 16 colors. Do you want a low fidelity photo, high fidelity? Let's do high or low fidelity and see what it comes up with. It takes a little bit of time, but it's obviously not too bad. And it depends on your image. Like if you try to throw a photograph like you took with a phone into this and vectorize it, it's going to take a million years. And I wouldn't even advise doing that typically. So I'm just trying to get this to work. That's actually pretty solid. What I might do, we see color banding on here. That's not ideal. And again, before I probably import this, I might do a high fidelity version. But we can actually, when we get into Figma, we can select all these layers and just make it a flat, solid color. So that's another nice thing. We have the ability after vectorizing it to create, and make adjustments to the colors and all that stuff. So this in and of itself is pretty good. There's areas we need to clean up, like this little blob right there. And then what we want to do essentially is just hit expand. After we hit that expand button right up there, now it's in vector format. And then we have the ability, if we switch to the direct selection tool, to like delete the background, you know. I might want to keep the background. I'm not sure. I'll probably just delete it, or at least take a reference of it so I can just copy it over here. All right. And then I can come here and I can select the whole thing. We're going to copy it. We're going to go to Figma. I'm going to open up a new Figma thing here. All right. Let's create a new document. I'm off the side of the screen. All righty. We're going to hit New Design. Oops. We want to first go to our artboards. We're going to start with desktop. I always use desktop first. Now, when it comes to code and HTML, CSS, I do mobile first, but desktop, it's very helpful to realize the full experience and design for the full experience, and then remove as you go down like to tablet to phone than it is to do the opposite. It's much harder, in my opinion, and many others' opinions, to go from starting with a mobile design and then trying to progressively add stuff all the way to desktop. Okay, so let's paste that on here. Oops, I don't want that to happen. We're just paste this on. This I'm just going to keep over here. All right. Actually, for now, I can just move it over here. We'll see what it looks like when we move it to the back. Now there is looks like it's a mask of some sort or something here. Let's get this. Something strange is happening. I think there's like oh, these aren't in the actual artboard. That's why it's being messed up. Let's take layer 1. I'm just going to ungroup this. There we go. That's going to help us a lot. Now with this, I'm going to select everything with exception to the artboard. Right. And I will sorry about that. I'm going to select everything, deselect that, deselect the actual frame. And then we'll group it up and put it into desktop 1. And I have an auto layout for some reason added. There we go. Okay, now we're ready to rock. Okay, so let's bring this back. Let's put it inside of not vector. Oh yeah, let's put it at the bottom. There we go. All right, so let's bring this bad boy up. Ooh, maybe we could do something like that, and we'll have to work with it a little bit, but just to create kind of like a layer effect, possibly. Again, I may change this, not a big deal. When we have to work with this graphic just a bit, hopefully it'll be, not too bad. What I want to do is I may not be able to fix this as ideally as I would want in the context of this quick stream, but I'm going to try just something real quick. We're going to see what it looks like if we can try to get rid of some of the color banding. So, if I take these, right, we'll do maybe a slightly darker. And then this one needs to change as well. That looks kind of strange. There's a little gap in here. Now this gap, all right, so that can be this. All right, so we improved that area. That's a little bit better. This right here, that looks strange. We can either remove it or we can take the opacity down to like 50%. Does that make sense? Maybe not. What we could do is possibly, if I take this and duplicate it and then select this, and then let's see here, mask it. There we go. That's exactly what I wanted. So now we have like this the shadow is only extending into this part of the background here. All right. Now, another thing, I'm probably going to delete all this crap right here. So delete, and just, to make my life easier, I'm just going to ungroup everything. Oopsie, don't want to do that. So some things are still grouped, it looks like, or maybe not. And just trying to quickly go through this. What is it selecting? It's selecting something over there as well. And pretty soon after I get this part fixed, we'll go ahead and start designing other areas and utilizing more AI. Oopsie, sorry about that. To start designing. Again, there's some other things I could definitely clean up a little bit more, but overall, this is real solid. I like this a lot. So I'm going to take this and group it up again. All right. So question that we have ourselves is, do we want to stick with a solid white background? We could. It has a nice, you know, the color contrast between white and this color, it works very well. We could experiment by taking this. We could duplicate it, just kind of, or actually, rather, instead of doing that, let's just grab the background. We can grab this color, and then, you know, maybe we can go a little bit lighter, but not quite white. Quite white would be right there, but we can integrate just a little bit of color. And there's a cool little trick that you can do when you integrate color. Like if you have like a card or something, like right here, we can make it white. And now it just barely stands out on its own. We can make the background darker to increase that contrast just barely, you know, something like that. So that's a possibility, and one way to kind of allow yourself to have white cards. We'll leave it like this for now. Actually, let's just go back to white just for now. Again, I may change it, but let's go ahead and put in the logo. So Greenbyte was the name. Let's get ourselves up to around, I don't know, 42. No, that's way too large, Gary. What are you doing? 26. All right, so that's, and again, I'm not going to do anything fancy with the logo. We could probably maybe make, maybe we'll do something strange. Instead of making green, we'll make byte green. How about that? Even though it doesn't seem like the most obvious. Now, what's the problem here? What is this problem? Well, the problem here is, even though it's kind of larger type, it's lacking contrast against the white background. This is pretty bright green here. So what I would do is just take this color, which is over here, and just make it a few shades darker, like that. There we go. Now we can more easily see what's happening here. So Greenbyte, you know, it'd be cool, maybe a little bit of a symbolism of some sort. Where can we get a byte? Now, a byte is usually represented in O's and ones, or even sometimes just a pixel. So if we can get just a pixel with the rectangle tool or something, using this, you know, maybe like the second one right there. There's our logo. Super simple, but some of the most effective logos in the world are super simple. Okay. Maybe it's dumb to have the little one. Maybe you just need one. That's it. Greenbyte. All right. Okay. So that's the logo. Now, with this two-column approach, we have a column here, and then we have this bigger column over here. It gives us space on desktop to then go ahead and put a navigation right here, aligned right here, and then perhaps over here, right aligned to the very outer right edge, we can have a button call to action for the navigation. All right, because you always need to have a sort of what do you call? Now, I guess you could say a nav-based primary call to action. I wouldn't say you always have to, but it helps in the case of like a SaaS or something like it. SaaS is software as a service or something like this. So let's just get a real quick navigation going. So we're going to do home. We're going to make it explicit. We'll make these about 18. So in terms of visual hierarchy, typographically speaking, because we're dealing with type right now, I usually like to have the logo be a little bit bigger than the actual nav items themselves. All right. So your attention is directly, you know, right here in the upper left, and then we move to the navigation. So we're going to have home here, and we want to have an active state. Typically, I would make these into components and do component variants for the active state and the hover state. We don't have enough time for that, so I'm just not going to do that. Again, if you want a more comprehensive solution, definitely check out the UI UX course where I do that a bunch of times. So Home, we're going to put in devices. Devices would make sense, like the type of devices that are supported that you can buy or sell. So that would be a good one. We could do another one where it's a FAQ and then a contact. And again, usually these work pretty well. Hold on a second. It's kind of strange. It's not giving me the typical, there, 44 and 44. There we go. Contact. Oh no, that's a SpongeBob case. All right, we'll put that right there. Now, what does that font size look like? We could go down to 16 based on how things are currently looking. And by the way, another thing that you typically want to do is add a layout grid. So we changed this over here. Let me zoom up for you, from grid to columns. For me, I only need one column, literally. And then I want a big margin, maybe like 100, 120 pixels perhaps. And I'll show you what this does. What it does is it gives me equal white space on the very left and very right, so that I can imagine, you know, the outer left column and the outer right column. I can see that there's going to be equal white space from the edge. That's a little bit too much because I want my logo to be probably right around here. Make sure I include that little thing here. We're going to group it. All right, so we're going to move it there. And I'm going to select back to that and adjust this layout grid to maybe like 100 pixels or 90. And there we go. All right, so now we have our very left margin defined with this amount of white space. And then our very right as well. And this is important because what we want to do, and by the way, let me lock that so we don't select it. What we want to do is, for a primary call to action, we could just put it right over here and make sure it's aligned to really define that invisible column on the edge. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to say, maybe we want people to really sell their phone. So sell my device. That's a good call to action right there, because it's not just click here to sell or something like that. We're going to make this bold, but we want to style it differently than these elements. And by the way, let me get rid of, hide that layout grid just temporarily. We want this to be an actual button that has a container around it. And so that way it really stands out on its own. And then we can just put this here, and then we can take this and auto layout and center it. And we'll make it big. One thing that I see new designers do wrong too often, and we'll make this background white and give it a little bit of border radius, is they'll go ahead and they'll do something like this. And what is wrong with that button? It just looks like garbage. Why? Well, because it lacks white space or padding on the inside. So you really want to beef this up so you have a good amount of white space on the left and right. And there we go. Now, we don't have to make the text black. You know, we could use the color that we used for the byte in the logo. So if we go there, but I think I would like to take this and even make it darker, maybe slightly. You know, we could do this. We can go pretty dark. And by the way, when you're developing your design, at the same time, you can build a design system as you're making these decisions and as you're integrating colors. And so a part of my UI UX course, you learn about design systems and how to create them as well. And yes, as you can see, I have no problem trying to make you buy my course. All right. So let's continue on. Will you make a YouTube video out of this stream? Well, this stream will be automatically added to YouTube itself. All right. So this is looking here pretty good. And you know what would be really cool is if this were taken to HTML, CSS, taking some of these items and making them float with CSS animations, just very gradually, and it just gives movement to the whole UI. So let's come up with a headline. And you know what? Here's how we're going to use some more AI for us. Come up with 5 different. Let me zoom up. We'll say attention grabbing headlines for the H1 element of this landing page. All right. So these are too long. So I'm going to ask them to I'm going to ask the AI to shorten, create a much shorter version of each of these headlines. All right, let's see what it does. All right, just looking through these real quick. All right, I think I kind of like this one. I don't like capitalizing every single word though. So let's just see what we can do. We'll take this. Right, we're going to work on a headline here. This is going to be size something big. For now, I'm just going to put 50. We'll paste that. There. All right. I may make this a little bit smaller. So let's try like 40 or so. And another thing I see newcomers get wrong, and Enter has a pretty good line height by default, but sometimes their headlines will be real spread out with a lot of white space if it's multiple lines. So adjust, make sure you adjust this value, this line height slash a kerning value, so that you can, or line, so that you can get this correct. I don't think I used the right term there. Leading. Yeah, leading. Sorry. The brain fart. All right. Upgrade your tech and save your wallet. All right. So now, given that that's a little bit, markety, we need to be a little bit more specific about exactly how they can do that. And then typically that's what you call a sub headline. So we'll take this and we can go regular or light, and we want to make it smaller. This is one of the things when it comes to typographic visual hierarchy that's very important that I teach in the course. So for instance, let's say, well, I'm not good with coming up with stuff on the spot. Come up with a sub headline for me to use. All right, so let's just wait for it real quickly. There, that's enough. I just want a single sentence, and that will be solid. So I'll paste that in. Okay, so what's the problem here? We can't just put these two. That's just stupid looking. It doesn't make sense. You're not sure where you should look first. So that's what typographic visual hierarchy is all about. And the way you do this, well, what's more important? It's our headline. We want them to read it first. It's going to be larger. Typically, it's going to be bolder. It could be higher contrast, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things that lend itself to visual hierarchy. So what we can do is maybe make this like size 22. All right, so that's a little bit better. Maybe we can also make it just regular. All right, let's increase this line height. Maybe we could go smaller. Maybe we can go 18. There we go. So now there's a very big, distinct, difference between this sub headline and the main headline. All right. Okay. So that's looking pretty good right there. I think I could go a little bit larger. Let's try like 40, 48. And I fill out this space because we have this whole white space to deal with. And if you have too much white space, over here, it's going to look weird, et cetera, et cetera. Now, also mind the fact that I place these right on the same column as that established by Greenbyte. So if I bring back this grid, you'll see they're all on the same column. I see like newcomers sometimes will like do weird things like this, and it's just like it just throws off the flow of your layout so much. So don't do that. Those nice and evened up as much as possible. You can break these rules sometimes, but especially when you're starting out, you don't want to. Okay, so we got this. And by the way, we will make this larger. All right, so just for now, I'm going to take this. There we go. Right, end that right there somehow. And then typically for a hero section for a SAS or something like that, you have a call to action. maybe a secondary call to action as well. So let's go ahead and let's just grab this. We're going to put this right here, make it a little bit larger, make the text for your primary call to action larger as well. We'll do like 22, and we're going to go ahead and make the fill. Can we do that color? All right, if we do that color, can we go white? It's going to be a little bit too dark. So now we can just grab the slightly darker version, and we can get away with white right there. All right, so let's just do browse devices or shop devices, something like that. You get the point. And then we could do a secondary call to action. And this is another thing that people get wrong. Actually, the login screen of ChatGPT, a $1 billion company likely, they have like a login and sign up button that look exactly the same, just like this. And they're green like this too. And that's like it's one of those UI UX no-nos when it comes to, did I say no? Are you guys like toddlers or something? Why am I talking like that? Anyway, but it's one of those things that you don't want to do because you want to emphasize one over the other. And you do that visually. All right. So you do that by making the buttons different. So let's just say, I hate putting learn more, but we'll just put learn more for now because I can't come up with anything else on the spot. So what do you do to make this button different? All right. So to make this button different from this one, we have a lot of options, and I'll show you a few. We can make the background real light, but still get in some of our primary color scheme. We'll make this one here black. All right. So that works. We can also make it, like regular. Right. So that's one way. We could just opt not to have any background. We could do a stroke instead. And again, it's still de-emphasized. Your eye is attracted to this one because the background is a part of our primary color. This one doesn't have a background at all. We could still use and get away with maybe a very light gray, or work in our color, a very light version of our color. Or we could just use the color itself. So there's so many different options that you have for like a secondary call to action. All right. So as I'm designing this, I'm going back and forth. I'm kind of looking at, I think we need a little bit more line height. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to adjust that. Maybe I'll push this down. So if you think about things in terms of squares and containers and sections, we have one that's kind of established right here. And the height of it is based on the height of this element adjacent to it. All right. So if I real quickly, here, let's just extend this out. Get rid of the fill, but give this a stroke. And again, this is just for the purpose of demonstration. You can see we have our headline, our subheadline, and then the buttons inside of it. And it looks like there's a discrepancy of white space beneath it compared to the top. Like there's too much white space here compared to the top based on the height of this adjacent element. So what do we want to do? We want to even those up as much as possible. You could take a rectangle, and put it maybe like right here. You can see that clearly there's a big discrepancy in the height of things that's happening. And maybe we could just instead adjust this up, maybe right around there. So now we pull this up and we're looking at the height of our elements. We can just slightly take things and move them down. And we're going to be a lot closer to being in the center of what we want. So again, that's just a quick way to kind of gauge your alignment and your white space above and below your elements. All right, so I would say this is actually a really solid start here to the headline. It looks good. I like it a lot. All right, let me check out some of the comments here. These are young people. They think everything has to be free. Is that good to have all that designs for the buttons? Well, I don't know what you mean by that, but the buttons here, this is a typical pattern for a primary and secondary call to action. Can I move yeah, I can actually do that if you want me to really, really badly. So let me move myself if this will let me do it easily enough. Actually, I don't even know if I can. I can probably make myself smaller. How's that? Okay, let's continue. All right. So Here in this, the way we've designed this, we have left ourselves no room to put anything else in this hero section. The hero section typically is just the first section of a design that a person sees. And it's typically the part that's in the visible view part of the device or the browser. We could probably, if you wanted to, we could move this up higher, and then we could put a section in the middle, maybe little cards or something. So you have options. You certainly have a lot of options just to add more, but you don't have to. So when it comes to design, you have a large degree of subjectivity in terms of decisions that you make. All right. And ultimately, you want to find out through testing once the site is live, or if you have prototypes, having actual, your users or your target audience use them, that will better inform your decisions. But for now, we're going off of intuition and what we already know. So let's go ahead and what is that right there? I think that was moved or something. 1 second. Oh, something happened. We got rid of our recall. Oh, well, no big deal. So we're going to have a section down here. And how long have we been streaming? 46 minutes. So we're going to design for one more section just so we can utilize some more of our assets. So let's make this a little bit larger. I kind of have an idea already to integrate one of the Midjourney images. So if I go back to Discord and we look at these people here, which one do I want to use? Let's use this bottom right one. So what we'll do is hit upscale 4. By the way, Novak Djokovic is playing Carlos Alcaraz right now, and I'm a big fan of tennis, so I'm just looking at the score. Oh, he's going to whoop him. Okay. All right. Anyway, Djokovic, that is. All right, so he is the GOAT of tennis, by the way. So let's go ahead and grab this. I have a little bit of an idea of something we possibly could do. So let's just, I'm going to screenshot this. By the way, people, before the stream ends, again, I just want to mention if you came in, late to this stream, in case you didn't watch the beginning part, if you want to learn how to do this stuff and more, definitely check out the UI UX course. It is 30% off. Use code STREAM30. I have a whole chapter that's updated on AI, where you learn how to build a project, much like we're doing here, but a little bit more involved and in depth for your UI UX workflow. And it's just going to take you from absolute beginner of UI UX design into somebody who, over the course of 16 hours and a bunch of other different types of interactive modules and challenges, somebody who's going to have a really solid grasp on beginning their UI UX design career. So definitely check out this. And let's get back to our Illustrator. All right. And I'm going to paste that in. Come down here. It doesn't have to be in an artboard or anything. And what I can do is just select this image trace. We'll do low fidelity, hit OK. Let this run through real quick. We can remove that background and use our brand colors. We can make it a white background, whatever. That's a very good job. Let's expand it, and let's just delete that. We got white stuff floating around. Don't worry, we'll fix this. Let's copy it. Now that it's in vector format, we're going to go back to Figma, and we're going to paste these suckers in. All right, so first thing, I'm just going to group it all up, and we're going to put it into our actual desktop. All right, so one thing I want to clean up real quick is that the background between some of their legs is visible, that previous color. I want to get rid of this. Maybe we'll leave some of those. I'm going to ungroup this, and kind of want these people to be maybe kind of like this, possibly. Or we could stagger them, vertically speaking. So what I mean is if I ungroup this, oh boy, there's a lot of groups in here. So let me keep ungrouping. There we go. Okay. So if we take like this, maybe put them down. Again, this might be a stupid idea. Actually, let's undo that. Let's take both of them. I'm just experimenting here. Again, I may not end up with this. Oops, we forgot our arm. And again, like this decision that I'm making right now, I may completely not use. And that's one of the things about design. It's just you experiment. It's very rare that you just come up with something and that's what you're going to use. So think about that. I may only use one or two of these characters, but for now I'm going to leave them there, and I'm going to let's group them back up, and I'm going to put a section of just kind of probably like of 3 feature blips based on the Chat GPT information. So let's think about that. Maybe I'm going to do a section here with a different color, a very light color, but some color, definitely color. And we'll get our color here. And again, I want it to be very light, maybe a little bit of desaturation. So if you look inside here, you can see where it's at in the color picker. All right. So, and again, we could possibly create some separation here. I'm going to leave it up, and we're going to create 3 cards. All right. So let's do 3 cards. Our edge is somewhere around here. There we go. And again, notice I'm aligning things in an intelligent manner. So we'll make this white. If I center this, there we go. We should have, and especially if I bring back our grid, there we go. Equal white space there. And we're all lined up with how we want to be. So now I know the actual size of the cards. So I can go ahead and hide that grid. We are utilizing rounded corners on some of our elements like buttons. So that means that we need to have rounded corners on like card containers and things like that to keep things consistent. It's a 4 corner radius value. So I'm just going to put 4 up here. All righty. And again, do we need card backgrounds like this? No, we don't. Maybe I won't. But for now, I'm creating them. So we're going to go back to, not that. We're going back to ChatGPT, and we had, so we're going to use like 3 of these. So quality, affordability, and sustainability. All right. So quality first. And so I'm going to go ahead and take some of our type. This is going to be too large. So we want to scale it down. Something like 24 might work. And we'll just say quality, right? Again, good white space on the inside. You don't want to go too close to the edges like this. Good white space. All right. Now I'm going to replicate that by Shift-Alt down, drag it out, make this even smaller, size 16 and regular, and then paste in the copy that we got from ChatGPT. So there we go. All right. So you might be wondering to yourself, then, do we need an icon? These are too large. Let's just do this for now. And now what we can do is we can take this, duplicate it. We can group it center and then duplicate again. Have equal white space right there. Okay. All right. So quality. What was the other one? We're going to go to ChatGPT. Affordability. And then we're going to go back to here. Where is it at? Keep on forgetting where I'm going. And then this is sustainability. All right. So now, one thing that kind of annoys me sometimes, you want to have roughly the same amount of characters for your descriptions so that you don't have big empty white spaces like this. So our platform enables consumers to, let's just copy this, and I'm just going to paste this right in the middle. So it's not meant to be read. I just want equal white space, and I'm not going to try to come up with like another sentence on my own. I want to try to get this going. So this here is one option. Now, when it comes to cards, There's many options that you have. We could put an icon associated with each one of these: quality, affordability, sustainability. If we can find one, we could put one maybe up here above. We could opt not to have any type of container around them, which in my opinion, this actually looks pretty solid. We could, instead of having a background, we could just give it a stroke and make it a very light stroke. So like, something like this. And then perhaps if you made this into a component and you made a hover state, these can change white, and you can change all sorts of things, especially if you start getting in the JavaScript. I think I kind of like having just a very brief 1 pixel outline around all of them. All right, so let's think about, do we want it to be that close? No, that's a little bit too close to the top. So we want to have a good amount of equal white space. Obviously, when you're dealing with a large, desktop design, you have more space or white space between your elements. So mind that, and you can really utilize in CSS things like viewport width and viewport height to create fluid, and along with clamp, to create fluid white space in your design. So just think about that. General rule of thumb is, like you can see up here in the hero section, there's a certain amount of white space, if I get the rectangle out here, between the very last element in this section and the next container. And then you can see if we duplicate this, we can have pretty much, I was able to eyeball it, the same amount of white space. So if you could do that between your sections, it's a nice consistent way to apply your white space. So one of the things about like solid design, especially when it comes to UI UX design, is you want to have consistency across all the metrics when it comes to your UI design fundamentals. So you want consistent application of colors, consistent application of the type you're using, consistent application of your white space, on and on and on, and your corners and all that stuff. The more consistent it is, the more you help to establish your brand identity and reinforce that brand identity. And also it just makes your designs look better and just like not crazy all over the place. All right. So let's take this. You can do cool things like these overlapping effects. Like where this overlaps on top of that. Don't worry, if you have a proficient front-end developer who deals with HTML, CSS layout structure, this here is not a big deal to achieve. This here is not a big deal to achieve either. This little overlay or something. It just makes your design much more interesting. All right. So do we need to have like a heading right here above these 3 cards? No, we don't. You don't always have to have section headings or section labels. Sometimes they can clutter things more often than not. And you know what I was talking about in terms of consistent application of your design principles? Like here's one right here. Like if I bring out this, we have a column established by this big green high contrast blob or this rectangle, but look where this is at. Maybe we can scale this over here just to make sure that it lines up with the edge of this card right here. So tiny things like that can really help reinforce your design and just make it a little bit better. All right. So these people actually work quite well. And you can kind of imagine if we were to continue this design, what could we do here? Like we could bring this up halfway. Oh, look at that. Look how cool that is. They don't take up too much space, and we could probably do some cool things with parallax or scrolling when we're scrolling down, or the user scrolling down with these people. Maybe they kind of just appear as you're scrolling down in the viewport. So there's a lot of very cool things we can do. I can imagine another section down here where we elaborate just a little further on, all the stuff like the value propositions and such that ChatGPT were able to integrate. So right now it's heavy in the way of illustrations, 2D vector illustrations. But of course, I want to do one more thing. And we're going to utilize Midjourney once again to go ahead and create an actual photorealistic representation of somebody or a phone or something that's broken. So let's do Imagine broken smartphone on white background, V5 or 16.9. All right. So let's wait for this real quickly. Somebody needs help, and I'm not going to click on that because I'm live streaming. We will help them afterwards. Yeah, Djokovic is the GOAT of tennis. Hands down. Nobody's better. I smell something weird. I hope the house is not burning on fire. By the way, people, this is so exciting. I'm going to show you a picture of my new office that was built, but it's not done, nowhere near done. I'm going to show you if I can get to it. Check this out. That's my new building. That's my house there. And then on the left is a 24 by 48 by 16 foot building. It's a pole barn, but I'm going to be finishing decking out the interior, and that's where I'm going to be working. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait. I'm going to be having I'm also a guitarist for those of you who don't know, and a drummer, and I'm going to have stage back there. I cannot wait. I'm going to have so much fun, especially with the YouTube studio as well. All right, so a few months that'll be ready to rock, and I'll do a video about that. So let's go ahead and check this out. Yeah, I'm not sure if it makes sense to use something like that. So let's do person throwing away smartphone. Right, V 5.1, AR 16.9. Let's add realistic. All right. So let's go back to our design while this is completing. And again, typically your headline should be the biggest headline that you have in terms of font size. So we can have like an H2 element and designate that as being something maybe like 36 instead of whatever it was before. So now we have a good disparity between headline and then like an H1 and an H2 value. So now right here, we can say, stop throwing away your devices. Profit instead. Okay. And we can take this and make it maybe our primary green color, Actually, is that the color we used? I want to make sure we're using the same exact color that we're using up in the logo. Okay. Let's get a little bit more line height there. Okay, now let's see what Midjourney created. That's stupid, and that's not realistic at all. Like, whose background? Like, I was hoping it would be like, and look at this. What is this? This is like a cartoon hand. That is absolutely not realistic. So as you can see, you can really play around with prompts to try to get exactly what you want. This is not what I want. I'll do one more just for the heck of it. Imagine person throwing away smartphone. I'm not even going to put realistic. All right. I'll do one more. Smartphone in trash can. All right. So we'll go back here. This is a real solid design. I like it a lot. If it was realized in the browser, we could do some really cool stuff with like GreenSock animation platform to make it lively and interactive and a nice interactive experience rather than just being a static site that you just, go like this and there's nothing at all happening interesting in terms of movement and motion and interaction. I kind of want to show you guys something that I'm working on. It's going to be like a mini course, just one project where you create this very cool sort of thing. But let's look at this first. What is that? That looks like it's a phone in a bucket of ice. Oh boy. So yeah, not the greatest pictures. You'd have to work with this more. So this is something to consider. Like if we upscale, number one, upscaling is very quickly. It's a matter of a few seconds. So yeah, we take that, we just copy this real quick. I don't know what that stuff is on the floor. And then, we paste this in quite large. We could do something like We can also crop it if we wish. You can do like a 50-50 split, 50% column here, 50% column there. Move it down. We could have type. And we could do something interesting with these, like take this corner specifically, maybe not do that to that corner. We could put little graphics on top of it. Like for instance, this is a common pattern for oopsie. Yep. For what do you call accent graphics essentially. So if we take our main color here for now, get like 5 of them, duplicate them, that, group them up. You can do things like this just to add a little bit of what I call visual interest in a design. Now you can experiment a lot with placement of these things. Maybe you'll align it with the top of the type, which is in more, intersect. It's all up to you. There's a lot of ways to approach it. We'll get this pulled out. And I would want to have a little bit more text in this context to elaborate further. Might as well go do that real quickly. We'll take our, I'm in the wrong one. Let's see here. We'll just copy this type real quick. Go back to Figma. All righty. Don't want that. Okay. So now maybe we can have like a secondary call to action right here. And again, I may not put learn more, but something like that. And you just go down and down and down, and you're mining, you're keeping everything consistent. So hopefully that was very helpful for you people who, kind of want to see how I would personally integrate AI. And let me show you that project where I'm going to be recording the course for it soon. And it's basically taking, I want to show you just for the fun of it. I'm going to be doing a whole YouTube video about this, but this is an early peek for those of you who are cool enough watching. I'm going to go to my history real quickly, my browser history, and I'm going to find this website. A friend sent me this website and said, look at this website. It is the ugliest website that I've ever seen. All right. And it's a new website, so it's not like an outdated one. First, if you notice, this image took forever to load, like it was on a 56K dial-up modem from back in the day. It's literally like 1.2 megs, just this picture here, megabytes. If you scroll down, obviously whoever built this web page, they're not a designer, they're not a web designer, they're just somebody who really loves Bigfoot. And it gave me the idea. My idea for the video is, how do we take a website that's like rated 1 out of 10, a 1, and how do we make it near a 10? And so that's what I challenged myself to do. And if I load up, I actually designed it. So the course is going to be the full UI UX process in Figma, and then making it a reality in the browser with HTML, CSS, and interactive JavaScript with GreenSock Animation Platform. So if I npm run dev, it's kind of broken, I think, at this point, but you're going to see some really cool stuff. Look at this. All right, so you're going to learn exactly how to do that. Let's look at that opening loading sequence first. All right, we got Bigfoot here. If I scroll down, oops, I forgot I broke this. He's not supposed to scroll down like that, but there's a lot of other cool stuff happening here. In fact, if I go back to my code real quickly, you're going to learn how to write all this JavaScript right here. This is just regular vanilla JavaScript, but utilizing GSAP in order to create all of the various, there's a lot of small little bells and whistles that are worked within here. So if I go up to, and by the way, this whole background image and him, it was AI generated with Midjourney. You can see a lot of cool, interesting things happening here. We got this mouse cursor, and there's going to be a lot more once I'm done. So definitely, I have one more section to do. Definitely look out for that course. How do I learn this? All of this? Well, definitely check out, like I said, designcourse.com/UI/UX. If you want to get into the HTML and CSS stuff, then go to designcourse.com/CSS, because that's also a huge interactive CSS course. If you're interested in becoming what I would call a full stack designer, that's somebody who can handle excellent UI/UX design, but also the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In JavaScript, specifically in relation to creating interactive front-end experiences, using stuff like GreenSock Animation Platform to create interactive and interaction design. That's what I consider a full stack designer. And that's the direction I'm pushing this channel. Then I would advise to first take the UI/UX course and try to start understanding that stuff, and then work yourself to the CSS course, so that you can take your designs that you know how to create in Figma and make them a working reality in the browser. Now, there's also a third large course that I'm doing and I'm currently working on. It's actually 2 courses. The first course is going to be 100% free, and it's just a introduction to JavaScript fundamentals, so that you have that foundation. And then the full course is going to be another large course like this UI/UX course and the CSS course, but it's about creating sites like this. No, not like that, but like the one I showed you that I'm working on currently. So I look be on the outlook for that as well. And that's the path I would say if you're interested in kind of tackling everything yourself. All right. So what all languages one needs to know for full stack. It depends on what you mean by full stack. You know, it means different things to different people. I say full stack designer. A full stack designer, like I said, is somebody probably who can handle identity design, at least to a limited context, which means logo design and then some other stuff like brand identity. It is also somebody who can't handle the UI/UX design for sure. And then it's going to be somebody who also understands HTML, CSS, and at least just regular vanilla JavaScript in order to create interactive experiences. If you want to be a full stack developer, then that's more of like a larger umbrella term where you can handle UI/UX, you can handle HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you can handle backend as well. So a full stack designer wouldn't be somebody who's handling backend, which means like creating database schemas and being able to interact with them on the front end. So if you're a full stack developer, you're somebody who could do that. You know, that's like the ultimate, cream of the crop, like somebody who's just like a jack of all trades. So hopefully I answered that question right. What is identity design? Like I said, identity design is, and I have an identity design course. It's outdated, but it's quite large on my YouTube channel. It has 3 million views, and it's like 2.5 to 3 hours long. And identity design is basically about, and this is something I did for a long time as an identity freelance designer, is something about, it's basically you're establishing all of the colors associated with the brand. You're even establishing, it can go beyond just the aesthetics. It could be about the emotions or the character of the brand. The identity of a brand it's the packaging design. It's a whole profession. You can make a great living if you're an excellent identity designer alone. You don't even need to know all this other stuff. So it's definitely in depth and involved. I would just suggest taking a look at my course on that I've created. I've completed your UI/UX course. It is truly helpful. Awesome. I suggest everybody go ahead and join up who's watching if you haven't yet. If you're really interested in making a living doing this stuff, again, it's this course right here. Use Stream30 code, Stream30, all one word, no spaces, STREAM 30 to get 30% off right now. So hopefully you guys join. And I will see you all soon. Let's take a look, one last look at the design that we created from scratch about this fictional project that ChatGPT gave us. And I suggest, just doing the same thing. If you want experience, you don't have clients, you can just start working now with fictional clients. Here's our AI-generated asset here, AI-generated business idea, AI-generated asset right here, AI-generated asset right here as well. So awesome stuff. I'm happy with it. Hope you all enjoyed it. And I will see you all very soon as we create more content. All right. Goodbye and awkward silence.